Have you ever wondered what happens to a man who walks alone for too long? Does he grow stronger, or does he begin to wither in the silence? Does he become a fortress of resilience, or a prisoner of his own solitude? We speak of self-mastery, of independence, but there is a fine line between solitude and isolation. The question is, have we crossed it? The longer a man walks alone, the more he learns the weight of his own thoughts. In solitude, the mind is forced to face itself. The distractions of the world fade, and what remains is the unfiltered reality of who we are. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." But he also warned us, if the soul is undisciplined, that retreat can become a battlefield. We often glorify the lone wolf, the man who needs nothing, no one. But Seneca reminds us, no one can live happily who has regard only for himself and transforms everything into a question of his own utility. True Stoicism is not about retreating into an emotional fortress, it is about mastering the self, so that we may face the world with clarity and strength. If solitude is chosen, it must be purposeful, not a retreat from wounds we are too afraid to face. The danger is this: the longer a man is without connection, the more he risks hardening himself against the very things that make life meaningful. The more he convinces himself that he is fine, that he does not need love, companionship, or the weight of another soul beside his own. And while detachment from need is power, detachment from humanity is a slow descent into coldness. Epictetus reminds us, "What ought one to say then as each hardship comes? I was practicing for this, I was training for this. If we are alone, let it be training, not exile. If we walk this path, let it be with purpose, not out of fear." The Stoic does not shun connection, he refines it. He does not chase love blindly, but neither does he reject it out of pride. But there is another truth. The longer a man has been without a relationship, the more he comes to understand himself. The absence of another forces him to face his own flaws, his own vices. He learns discipline, not for the sake of someone else, but for himself. He sharpens his mind, tempers his desires, and becomes a man who is whole on his own. Yet, we must ask ourselves, does this solitude make us better, or does it make us bitter? Many men who walk alone for too long begin to resent what they do not have. They convince themselves that love is a weakness, that connection is a distraction, that they have transcended the need for companionship. But the truth is, a man who has mastered himself does not fear love. He does not reject it. He controls how it affects him. There is wisdom in solitude, but also danger. A man who has been without a relationship for too long may become so set in his ways that he is unwilling to share his life with another. He may become rigid, unable to compromise, unwilling to let anyone close. He may lose the ability to be vulnerable, to trust, to let down his guard. This is why the Stoics did not preach isolation. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire surrounded by advisors, soldiers, and citizens. Seneca was a statesman navigating the treacherous politics of Rome. Even Epictetus, who was born a slave, taught and guided those who sought his wisdom. None of them lived in complete solitude. None of them rejected connection. A Stoic does not need a relationship to be whole, but he does not fear one either. He understands that love, like all things, must be approached with discipline and wisdom. He does not seek validation in another, but he also does not build walls so high that no one can enter. So ask yourself, have I been alone by choice or by fear? Have I convinced myself that I need no one, when in truth, I fear rejection? Have I called it self-sufficiency, when in reality it is self-imposed isolation? A true Stoic is not one who feels nothing, but one who controls what he feels. He is not a man who rejects love, but one who understands that love is not possession. It is the sharing of strength, the merging of two souls who walk alongside each other, not in dependency but in mutual respect. The longer a man has been without a relationship, the more he must guard against extremes. He must ensure that his solitude is sharpening him, not making him brittle. He must remain open to connection, but never enslaved by it. He must walk alone when necessary, but never forget that even the strongest men do not carry the weight of the world alone. Tell us in the comments, do you think solitude strengthens or weakens a man? Have you ever mistaken isolation for self-mastery? And remember, walking alone can build you, but if you never let anyone walk beside you, you may find that strength without warmth is just another form of emptiness.